Our first case tonight is a robbery that happened back in May, but conceivably you may right now see the proceeds on the open market. It was a daylight raid on a house in a country village, and the gang took away a collection of silver that had been a lifetime's work for its owner. The story starts earlier this year in London. Christie's in South Kensington. Bertram Vince is a regular visitor to the London auction rooms. He's been collecting antique silver for a dozen years, and though he's modest about it, he's something of an expert.
I'm offered 15 only here to start me. 18. Bidding 20. At 20 only. 22.
Bertram's family owns and develops property in East Anglia.
150, 160, 170.
But silver is his first love, and he's a well-known figure in the antique sales rooms.
Your number, sir? 241, thank you.
Bertram lives with his parents in the quiet village of Wearham, near King's Lynn in Norfolk. His family have lived here for 3 generations. It's lunchtime on Tuesday, May the 28th, and there were few people about who witnessed the events that shook the village that early afternoon. It's 5 to 1, and opposite the Vince's house, in the sub-post office, Ken English is locking up. It's half-day closing for Wearham's only shop. As usual, the village seems quite empty. At about 1:10, a neighbour noticed a car he'd never seen before parked right outside the Vince's house. He remembers a green, Y-registered Cavalier saloon. It's now early afternoon, and Bertram's parents have gone out. None of Bertram's friends or neighbours remembers ringing him that afternoon. Bertram spent about half an hour working in his study. The VAT inspectors had visited the week before, and he was making sure the records of his silver deals were up to date.
Who is it?
Open up. We're from Customs and Excise.
You were here last week. I'm afraid you'll have to make an appointment. You can't come in now.
We have a statutory right of entry.
No, you haven't. You come back when you've made an appointment. Get off me!
Not that way. The alarm's on.
Where is he? Get his arm.
Come on! Oh!
Keep it quiet. Shut up. Take his hands. Shut up.
Give me his arms.
Here, he's going.
Leading the investigation is Detective Inspector Kevin Coyle. The robbers are very lucky they haven't got a murder charge over them.
Yes, that is correct. Due to the way he was trussed up, gagged and had the bag over his head, he had great difficulty in breathing.
He nearly suffocated.
Yes, he did.
The green Cavalier that we saw at one point in the film, you're fairly convinced that that was in fact the robber's car, yes?
Yes. Later that afternoon at 3:45, a similar car was seen to go from the direction of the house and turn onto the A134, forcing an oncoming vehicle to brake to avoid it.
Right. Now, what about the men? What sort of description do you have of them?
Yes. The man at the door was about 40 years of age, 6 foot tall, proportionate build. He had dark hair and had a well-trimmed moustache. He was wearing a dark pinstripe suit, was very smart and had an air of confidence about him.
And what about the heavy that came bursting in through the kitchen door?
Yes. That man was younger, about 30 years of age, slightly heavier, 5'10" tall, had dark black curly hair and a Greek Mediterranean look about him.
Right, now about £100,000 worth of silver was stolen. You've brought some items here that, well, they're not replicas, but they are similar, I gather.
Yes, amongst the property stolen was about 70 snuff boxes, of which this is a similar one. The design on this was similar to some of those what were stolen, although there were other ones which were larger and smaller.
Right, what's that little thing you've got there?
That is a vinaigrette. There was about 40 or 50 of those stolen. These were used by ladies to put perfume in and to sniff.
Right, and this tea set or coffee set?
Yes, the tea coffee set was made by Angel Brothers in 1861 and has a chase design, and the floral chase design.
Which dealers would recognise?
Yes, they would, by the makers and the design.
Tell me about the deed box that you've also brought in that's in front of the desk here.
Yes. That deed box, or a similar deed box to that, was taken and has not been recovered. We think they took this by mistake, thinking it contained a lot of silver, but all it actually contained was Mr. Vince's books, which had his name and initials on them.
Right. There's a reward, isn't there? Quite a big one.
Yes, there is a reward of £20,000 for the recovery of the property or for the arrest of the people.
Right, Mr. Coyle, thank you. The number to call if you can help, 01 811 8055, 811 8055. You can speak in confidence to a detective, or as always, you can ask if you wish to speak to a BBC researcher. Or you can call Norfolk Police direct on Kings Lynn 766 233. That's 0553 for Kings Lynn 766 233.
Our next reconstruction is not the sort of crime that makes front-page news, but it's greatly distressed and upset a lot of elderly people across the home counties and in the Midlands and in the West Country. Over the past 3 years now, more than 120 people have been persuaded to part with their pension books on their doorsteps by two very plausible bogus social security officials. The pair arrived in Bristol towards the end of last summer. Saturday the 30th of August, the public library in the St George area of Bristol.
Hello. I wonder if you can help me. Yes, I'd like to look at your voting lists, please.
Yes, which one do you want?
I was thinking of the area down towards this way.
To the librarian, there was nothing suspicious about the young woman. Voting lists are often asked for by market researchers and mail-order companies. They show the names of householders street by street.
Look, goes straight from there to there.
But after she left, librarians found several pages had been torn out.
Is it just one page? Sure. No, it's more than two.
The next Monday, September the 1st, less than a mile from the library, is Bruce Road. At 9 o'clock, a middle-aged woman called at a house there.
Good morning, Mrs. Green. I'm from your social service office. It's about your pension. It appears you're going to get a little bit extra.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yes, it's on the heating allowance, but I'll need your book.
Oh, would you like to come in?
No, I won't come in. As a matter of fact, my children have got the flu and I wouldn't like to pass any germs on to you. Thanks very much. I'll take this down to the office. You should get it back tomorrow, but anyhow, Wednesday at the latest. All right?
Yes.
Goodbye.
20 minutes later, a few streets away.
Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. I'm from the Social Security. It's about your pension. You're going to get a bit extra. It's on the heating allowance, £1.11.
Oh, that's good then.
But I'll need your book.
Must you?
Oh, yes, I'm afraid so.
I think you better come in then.
No, I won't come in, thank you very much. I'm just getting over a touch of bronchitis. I wouldn't want to give you a germ, would I?
Vera Popel in Heath Street was another victim, and there were 2 more that morning. DHSS investigators now believe the Bristol offences were by 2 women who'd been operating together for over 2 years. They started in London. In 1984, there were 48 identical incidents. Then, in 1985, they moved further afield, 26 more as far as Peterborough and Reading. And this year, another 46 cases from Coventry and the Midlands down to the south coast. And now it seems the same 2 women are trying another, more shocking method. This is Colchester General Hospital in Essex in August.
Good morning, Mrs. Adams.
Good morning.
I'm your social worker.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Elliot asked me to call in and see you to see if there was anything you wanted.
Well, I could do with a clean nightie and perhaps another vest, if you would.
Yes. I shall need your keys.
Oh, would you mind passing my purse?
Okay.
Thank you. Do you know where I live?
Yes, I know your house.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I should be able to get these back to you within a day or 2. Will that be all right?
Oh, yes.
Very well, then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
A few days later, Mrs. Adams was too ill to remember exactly when, the woman was back.
Mrs. Adams. Good morning.
Oh, hello.
How are you today?
Oh, not too good.
Well, I bought your clothes for you.
Oh, thank you.
And a little bit of good news. You're going to get a little extra on your heating allowance, so your pension will go up. If you could let me have your pension book, I'll take it and get it adjusted. Thank you.
Now, don't lose it.
No, I won't. But you should get this back in about 3 days' time.
Oh.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, there is one other little thing. It's my daughter's birthday soon. Do you think you could post her birthday card in the box outside?
Of course, dear. Oh, there we are. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The card never arrived. There have been similar incidents in other hospitals in the south of England. And these are the places where the stolen pension books have been cached, usually in sub-post offices well away from where they were taken and several weeks later. Generally, it's the younger woman who picks up the money.
Hello. I've got my grandmother's pension book here.
Yeah?
She's come to stay with me and she hasn't been well, poor thing, so she's not been able to get out. I've signed the back of the pension book. You can see there's 6 weeks' money there.
You have to fill up a form.
Yeah, the change of address form. Yes, I've got that here.
Right. That's 200. All right. 10, 20, 40. 240.
Thank you very much.
To date, the women have walked away with over £20,000. Well, Detective Sergeant Don Bond, all the pensioners have eventually got their money back from the DHSS, haven't they?
Yes, no one's actually lost any money. But of course, they've all been through quite a traumatic experience. They've grown up in an age when they trust people, and they now find that people aren't that trustworthy. They've been quite shocked by it all.
Yes. When the keys to Mrs. Adams' house were taken when she was in hospital, nothing was taken, I gather, from her house?
No, that's rather strange, that. They seem to have concentrated just on the pension book aspect. They took nothing at all from the house when they had opportunity to.
Right, so all they're interested in is the pension books. Can we have their descriptions, the older woman, first of all?
Yes, she's 40 to 55 years of age. She's described by a couple of the old ladies as having rather prominent teeth, often described as having a pale complexion, and on occasions been described as a Marjorie Proops look-alike.
We have to bear in mind that they wear a number of different disguises and wigs, so it's slightly confusing. What about the younger woman?
Yes, now she's generally described as mid-20s, 22 to 28 years of age. She's 5'3" to 5'5" inches tall, fair hair and slim build.
Now, I gather you've just heard that an electoral roll has been stolen from a library somewhere in the Bradford-on-Avon area.
Yes, that's right, in Wiltshire. In the last day or two, they've found that their electoral roll has disappeared completely from the library. It may be connected, it may be not, but it would certainly be worth people in Wiltshire being just a little bit more cautious.
What are your main points of appeal to viewers?
I think threefold. Firstly, to librarians to pay particular attention to people asking to see the electoral roll. Then to the post office staff to be, again, just a little bit more cautious with people who are saying that they've got elderly relatives staying with them temporarily and can they cash their pensions for 5 or 6 weeks. And then thirdly to the elderly ladies themselves. Just because someone knows your name, it doesn't necessarily mean they're authentic. They should always ask for an identification card. And then all three of those categories may well have seen a vehicle. It's important that we get whatever information we can on any vehicle. There's been no sightings as yet.
A car number would be very useful,
yes.
Right. And remember, just because somebody comes to your door and knows your name, it doesn't mean to say you can trust them. Do always ask for identity. If you recognise either of those two women, remember they have a number of different disguises, please ring police here in the studio on 01811 8055, or you can ring the special number set up by the DHSS for this case, and that is 01403 2880. 01403 2880. We'll now have a look at these greetings cards. The pictures are from paintings by a British artist called Hector Caffieri. He worked mainly in watercolours and often painted French and English ports around the turn of the century, and also flowers and landscapes. Lately, his pictures have enjoyed something of a revival, fetching up to £17,000. Some of the original paintings have been passed down to the artist's grandson, who lives with his wife in Watford, Hertfordshire. Last month, his entire collection was stolen. It's worth about £50,000. At the request of the couple, we've changed their name for our reconstruction, which begins 4 days before the robbery on Saturday, the 28th of February, in Bedford. That Saturday, GB Auctions in Bedford were holding their usual weekend car and van sale. Hundreds of prospective buyers had gathered to bid for any likely-looking bargains coming under the auctioneer's hammer. Lot 21 was an ex-British Telecom van. Registration number FFL 917W. According to normal practice, it had been stripped of its telecom logos.
£400 only bid 4, bid 4, bid 20. 420 only bid 40. 440 bid and selling at £440. It goes out, sold bid, I'll take 50. Once, twice, all done at 450. Yeah, Mustang.
Whoever bought the van paid cash, and the name and address he left before driving it away turned out to be false. Four days later, and 40 miles away, in the Caffieri Park estate in Watford, police believe it was the same van, now with full telecom livery restored, which pulled into a small cul-de-sac. Mrs. Walker didn't see the van. She was on the phone to her daughter at the time.
Oh, green. Oh, Daddy likes that. No, I can't tell him. He's off golfing. Oh, all right, darling. Yes, you're always in such a rush. Right, bye.
A neighbour then saw what she took to be two telecom engineers at work by a telegraph pole. Moments later, the van reversed into Mrs. Walker's drive.
Good morning, madam. Telephone engineers.
Telephone? Well, what's the trouble?
Well, there seems to be some problems with the phones in the street and we're checking...
Mrs. Walker wasn't expecting British Telecom, but she remembered a telecom area survey some weeks before when she'd mentioned there'd been some crackle on her line. She assumed they'd come about that.
Well, would it be all right if you come in?
Yes. Yes, come in.
Where is your phone, love?
Just over there.
Oh, right. I thought so. Dead.
Dead?
Dead as a doornail.
that's strange. It was working just now.
Have you got any other phones in the house?
Upstairs in the bedroom. Yes, it's dead.
Yeah, have you got a ladder, love?
Yes, there's one in the garage.
The men and their van seemed credible, but Mrs. Walker was beginning to have her doubts.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have a look in the loft.
Is that really necessary?
It's a bit grubby up there, I think.
Yeah. Pass the torch, yeah?
Here you go.
Yeah, that's it.
But be careful of the burglar alarm wires.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the wires up there are totally frozen up. We're going to need a blow heater or a hairdryer. Have you got
Frozen up?
Come on, there's one in the van.
one? Yeah. Be back in a minute, all right?
Now Mrs. Walker was really worried. Her first thought was to hide her jewellery.
Oh, Steve, there, good boy. Oh, my God.
Right. Me and him have only got 6 months to live.
Yeah, and we're gonna live it up. So do as we say.
So you come here.
Okay, move. Quick.
For some strange reason, the two men had now decided to pull on balaclavas and produce shotguns. In the study, they shackled Mrs. Walker's hands behind her back.
Oh, my God.
Roll over.
Please don't hurt me.
They didn't seem to want to hurt her, but just to keep her out of the way.
Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on.
Wait, what's you... Oh.
Oh, please tell me what you're taking.
They took all the paintings they could find from the walls and from the loft.
Listen, love, you're a nice lady, right? When's your husband coming home?
I don't know.
You don't know. Anyway, here's a key, okay?
About an hour later, 6 miles away, near Chipperfield Common, a motorist saw two men beside a telecom van and another larger van parked by a narrow bend. Later that morning, and in that same lane, two girls from a local riding school saw flames coming from the woods. A yellow telecom van was ablaze. Through the smoke, they saw two people on a motorcycle. They watched them ride off in the direction of Chipperfield village. Well, Gary Purser, do you think those paintings were actually changing hands at the spot where the witness saw the two vans parked?
I think it's most unlikely because, as we saw from the reconstruction, it's a very narrow lane there. And in fact, if we look at the micromap, we can see that from the Caffieri estate, it is in fact 6 miles to Chipperfield Common, and the main route they should have taken was Bucks Hill. There is an alternative via Old House Lane, and obviously we're appealing to anybody who may well have seen that transaction taking place anywhere between those 2 points.
Right. And there were 11 paintings involved altogether, weren't there?
11 paintings in all, the majority of them by Hector Caffieri. In fact, Medici Cards have been able to make these reproductions for us. This one's the French fisherman, and we have a village wedding scene here again in France, and finally a French fish market.
Any idea where any of these paintings might be now?
Well, they're very popular at the moment, and in fact there is a market for them in Holland.
What about descriptions of the men? What do they look like?
Well, again, we've been very fortunate there. A number of witnesses have been able to build us up a very good video fit, and we can see that the man number one, the one with the glasses on, he's described as 20 to 26 years old, very, very thin and very pale, almost albino looking. And one of the witnesses described him as possibly undergoing some drastic medical treatment, perhaps chemotherapy.
Right, we can see him without his glasses as well.
That's right.
So the fact, when they said that they were only had 6 months to live, they could really have been telling the truth, perhaps?
They could have been. They did mention that they had AIDS, but again, with the glasses, that could be true or could be false. We don't know.
And these men obviously weren't art experts because they stole one of Mrs. Walker's daughter's paintings, didn't they?
Yes, that was a watercolour done by the daughter of the family, and again, they stole a print of Caffieri House.
Right. Now, the van itself was bought 2 days before the robbery. They finally drove it away from the auction 2 days before the robbery. Where was it in those 2 days, do you think?
Well, they gave a false name, the name of Jones, but the address they gave, Trident Drive in Houghton Regis, actually exists. The address has obviously been checked and it isn't connected, but obviously anybody in that sort of area would be interested to know where the van was for those 2 days.
Right, well, there is a reward, isn't there, of £2,000?
£2,000, yes.
Right, and by the way, do remember that if British Telecom engineers do call, they always call with prior notice, so don't accept anybody you haven't heard from before. Please call us if you do think you can help. The number here is 01811 8055, or call Hertfordshire Police on Welwyn Garden City 331011. That's 0707, the code for Welwyn Garden City, 331011. Well, next tonight, a tale that's all too commonplace. Con men posing as officials in order to gain entrance to people's houses and commit an easy burglary. Thousands of this type of case are reported every year. But the thieves in this case, we're about to show you, posed as waterboard officials, and they've been operating in South Wales around the Cardiff area. They choose easy targets, vulnerable elderly people who live on their own. In our reconstruction, our victims are played by actresses, and we've changed the names to protect their identities. The first two live in the Whitchurch area of Cardiff. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday the 26th of September. 84-year-old Gwyneth Maxwell was returning home after a holiday in Torquay.
Well, there's nothing been happening here much. The weather's been so cold.
20 minutes after she got home, a neighbour called round for a cup of tea.
They kept fine for us. Oh, I'm so pleased. Because you needed a break.
Yes?
I'm sorry to trouble you, but there's a burst water pipe just up the road.
Well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, the thing is, I've been told to come and check the water to make sure it's not contaminated.
There's nothing wrong with the water.
Well, I've got to check it. Well, it seems all right, but I better check the water in the kitchen. Well, I'll just check the taps. The water's fine. I'll be on my way now.
Both women thought the man's behaviour very suspicious, and they watched to see where he went. But it wasn't until there was a similar incident 19 days later that they reported the matter to the police. Just a few doors away, on Thursday the 15th of October, at about 2:30, 79-year-old Avril Jones was taking her rubbish out. 20 minutes later, she received a visit from someone who said the water pipes in the road were faulty.
Can you press down on the cold water tap as firmly as possible?
Yes.
Whilst I go upstairs and check the bathroom. Here, use this cloth. All right. Now, you'll hear some bumping and banging, but eventually the water will come out muddy.
What's going on up there? What's going on out here? Who's he?
Oh, it's all right. He's with me. What time does your husband get home?
Well, I can't say. But if it's anything to do with the pipes, you put a note through the letterbox.
I'll do that.
Realising she'd been conned, she phoned the water board, too late. But she was lucky. The men found nothing of value and had left empty-handed. But like many old people, Mrs. Jones was too shaken to give police a good description of the bogus officials. However, house-to-house inquiries revealed the visit of 19 days earlier, and Gwyneth Maxwell was able to help police build an identikit picture of the man who'd called on her.
How's that?
Absolutely.
8 days later, October the 23rd, in the Cateys district of Cardiff. At about 1:30, 86-year-old Louise Thomas was returning home from the post office. She, like all the victims, lives on her own.
I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's been a gas explosion, and I've come to check your water.
Oh, well,
Kitchen this way?
yes. All right.
I've just got to check the purity. Can I have a glass of your water, please?
Oh, yes, all right. You are.
Looks all right. Better test it. It's okay. Nothing to worry about. Do you live here on your own?
Yes.
I'm from a family of 15 myself, so I'm used to a large family. You're a Cardiff girl, are you?
Yes. I lived here all my life.
No, it's fine. Nothing to worry about. I'll be on my way now.
Good.
In just a few minutes, the burglars had got away with more than £3,000. But it was 2 hours before Miss Thomas realised what had happened, that her savings were gone. 15 miles north of Cardiff, on the A470, is the Expressway service station. On the afternoon that burglary happened, witnesses remember that this car broke down there and was abandoned by 3 men. A routine police inspection a few days later revealed the missing handbag. Documents belonging to Miss Thomas were still inside, but the money, of course, was missing. Well, Detective Chief Inspector Alan Buck is investigating the case, and just about an hour ago you had another report of a very similar incident, didn't you?
Yes, at 3:30 this afternoon, a similar incident occurred in Kidwelly in the Dyfed-Powys police area when £1,500 was stolen from an elderly couple.
So you think it could be the same people?
They could well be the same people, yes.
Right. Perhaps we could have a closer look at the identikit picture that we saw Gwyneth Maxwell helping you with.
The description is of a man in his early 20s, about 5'9" tall. He spoke with a polite voice and an Irish accent, and he had very neat, fair hair.
And the Irish accent is consistent to all the witnesses' descriptions, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Now, while we were actually filming our reconstruction at the service station, several more witnesses came forward.
They did indeed. They had seen 3 men. Again, these 3 spoke with Irish accents, in fact spoke in Gaelic, leaving the scene.
Right. Now, the biggest and best clue, of course, is the car, the white Ford Granada. And that was bought on Wednesday, the 21st of October. Here's the receipt from it, at an auction in West Bromwich.
That's right. It was bought in West Bromwich, and the person buying it gave a Wolverhampton address. What we'd like to know is where the vehicle was from the 21st to the 23rd. We'd like to know if anybody saw the people abandoning the car on the A470. Did anyone give them a lift? Where did they stay overnight on the Friday, Saturday? They certainly came back on the Saturday evening. Did anyone give them a lift back there? We need to know where those men were.
Right. Now, one clue was left inside the car. It's rather interesting. Some acne cream.
Yes, that acne cream was found on the back seat of the car, and it was bought from a chemist in Blackpool.
So the Blackpool connection there.
Indeed, they may.
Right. Now, these men, of course, might well have visited other people, either in the Cardiff area or even a wider area, and not been successful.
We think that's almost certain, and we would ask the public, in Cardiff particularly, to phone the local police station if they've had a visit from water board officials in the last few months where they've been in any way suspicious.
Right, well, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. And do call if you can help. The number is, as usual, 01811 8055, or you can call the Cardiff Police direct on 0222 398 381. That's 0222, the code for Cardiff, 398 381.
Crime against the elderly is very rare. As you get older, you're less and less likely to be the victim of a crime. That's the opposite to what many older people fear, of course. Nonetheless, senior citizens need to be aware that some people will try to take advantage of them, and the rest of the community needs to be aware too. If you're a postman, a milkman, or perhaps a neighbour to someone who you think might be vulnerable, you'll see from our next film how we can all prevent these crimes by simply being alert. Helen Phillips takes up the story of one con man and one form of con that's been spreading across the country for 25 years.
The winter of 1963 saw the worst storms in living memory. Many homes were wrecked. But as a result, there weren't enough workmen to repair the damage. A new type of criminal appeared on the streets. The bogus property repairmen, or prop men as they were called. They actually started their tricks here in Leeds, and it gradually became known as the Leeds crime. Today the problem's worse than ever, and it's still centred around Leeds. One con man in particular has been active in 8 different force areas. And last month, a conference was organised here in Leeds specifically to discuss his crimes. The man's believed to have committed up to 80 offences over a wide area. In the last year, he's stolen more than £50,000. Police have produced this photo fit of him. He's in his 40s and well built. Some people say he looks like Geoff Capes. The crimes he's committed are callous and calculated, designed to prey on the elderly and infirm, people least able to defend themselves or give detailed statements. Mick, how does he go about it?
He favours the old person's type of complex, and he's got a very well-rehearsed story. He's obviously looking for legitimate vans in the area. That's the type of complex there, and that's the type of van. And he always uses the same method.
Oh, wait, blasted building break. I'll be down shortly. Oh,
Hello, is this number 42?
Yes.
You Mr. Young?
Yes, I am.
I'm the heating engineer. Come to check if you need any new plugs and fittings.
Expecting this.
Right, come in for a minute.
You come in.
Right, thank you. Right, now let that run for 5 minutes and turn it off when the water turns brown.
You are right.
Well, you'll have to run it because the boiler will blow up if you don't turn it off when the water turns
That's the
brown.
first time I've ever heard out like that.
Right, now you stay here and watch that until it turns brown,
Yeah.
and I'll just go and check if everything's all right.
He must have slipped back then and into the bedroom. That's when I think it happened. I've had to cope with it. It got me down, I tell you. It got me down. It got me very depressed. And I started to pick myself up. Well, my youngest daughter, she got me pick myself up when she comes. You don't get like that, Dad.
The man starts early and maced overnight in guest houses. Here's an example of a typical day.
Hello.
Hello.
He committed his first offence in Normanton and then moved on to Sandal near Wakefield.
Hello, I'm from the electricity board. I've come to check your immersion heater.
Oh, come on in.
By mid-morning, he was probably in Huddersfield, where he struck twice.
Hello, love.
Hello.
I'm from the water board. We're working in the area. Did you get the letter?
No.
He stole cash and gold rings, and then went on to Sowerby Bridge. But in Halifax, something went wrong.
All right, you sit down there, love. That's it. Okay.
Who are you?
Oh, hello. I've been next door fixing a new switch, and I just popped in to check if it's causing any interference.
What tale are you telling me?
Well, it's all right. You see me identification. Haven't you, love? I'll be off to check next door then. Bye.
The lady's son got a good look at his face. He committed 8 crimes that day, covering the breadth of Yorkshire. He may have an accomplice who's between 30 and 40 years old, over 6 foot and well built. In Derbyshire, the conman's been seen getting out of a dark-coloured car. Inside was a woman described as plump with fair hair. But the witness in Halifax was able to give the police a very good description of the man. For the first time on Crimewatch, we're going to try and develop it using a new Home Office system called eFit. It supersedes a photo fit and creates a computerised image very similar to our video fits. The system also allows for any alterations which the witness may want to make by actually changing the features on the screen. Michael, is that a good likeness?
Well, the beard needs filling in on both cheeks. That left eyebrow, could that be brought round slightly? Well, I'd like to see it filled in up here and across there.
This provides us now with a very clear image of the man we're looking for. Have a good look at him again. If you recognise him, or if you have any information about this or similar cases, call us now on 01 811 8055. Or you can ring the incident room direct on Leeds 414141. That's 0532, the code for Leeds, 414141.